Hey, it's me again, and I am about to tell you about another book that I read this summer. Again, it's a lot of them that I have to tell you about. Um, Let me just go ahead and tell you about this one. This one I didn't even know existed, um, and it totally threw me off guard. She wrote, this is a companion piece to Bronx Masquerade, which, if you have not read Bronx Masquerade by Nikki Grimes, is about this group of young people who they come in Mr. Ward's class. And while teaching the Harlem Renaissance, he takes them through a poetry unit. They actually start having open mics. What is so awesome about the open mics is kids who've never spoken in front of kids are now comfortable speaking in front of kids. Kids are able to show who they really are. Like, there was a basketball player who he got tired of being stereotyped as a basketball player. He couldn't be smart. He couldn't love books. You had a young lady who was also a basketball player, and her father felt like you should be going to the WNBA, but she loved art. She didn't even like basketball. I think she couldn't even play it. So you had all these people who were battling these stereotypes they dealt with at their home or from their school and trying to be who they truly are. And that's why it was called Bronx Masquerade. This one's called In Between the Lines, and it's a companion piece. What threw me off guard, and what I love about Nikki Grimes, what threw me off guard is I really thought she was going to take the people that were in Bronx Masquerade and what's next. It's a companion piece because what she did is simply brought a new class to Mr. Ward. And these people are pretty much doing the same thing they did in Bronx Masquerade. They're learning about themselves. They're coming out of their shells. You have one young man, Marcel, who everybody's like, he's so angry. Well, Marcel, we found out, is angry is because his father was falsely in prison for something he didn't even do. And since the father has come out of prison, even though he was released, the father, because he's been and honestly, what happened was something you hear about. I remember hearing about this in African Violet. It's a movie I remember seeing on BET. I remember this being mentioned in the 13th Amendment, the movie by, the documentary by Ava DuVernay, where they will pretty much get low and impoverished people, especially people of color, and get you to plead guilty to a crime that you did not commit. Because what ends up happening is you lose your right to vote. You lose, you can't stay in, like, you can't qualify for welfare. You can't stay in government funding housing projects. And that pretty much what happened to them is they were living one place and they had to move. And the mother was not willing to divorce the husband. They had to move because he was convicted of a crime. They could no longer stay in this particular project. He can't find a job. He had a nice job. And even though he did not commit the crime, but he took the plea deal because he didn't want to serve any jail time. But what people don't realize is you take the plea deal and that's on your record. And then you find out some other stuff around the whole crime. But Marcel is angry because it's like, I don't have whoever went off to prison is not home now. Then you have this young lady, which I cannot remember her name, but I know she's black and she has blue eyes and she has blonde hair. She's very fair skinned, but she's in and out of foster homes. But it is just like Bronx Masquerade, where you go through a series of narrations of a particular character, what's going on in their lives, and then a poem they shared during the open mic. And the main character, Darian, is kind of like the Tyrone in Bronx Masquerade. Tyrone was the main narrator who he always comment on everybody's poems. That's what Darian does. And Darian's an aspire. He wants to be a news reporter. And he pretty much ends up, composing headlines and making commentary after everyone performs in the open mic. What I like about it is that in this book, unlike the last book, they actually prepared to do a slam poetry where they competed against each other at the school, which gave me ideas because I'm actually launching a Poetry Nation again at Longleaf Middle School and see how that goes. And it'll be awesome if we had our own slam competition. So it's very good. It's very heart-wrenching because you realize as a teacher, our kids have issues. They deal with a lot of issues that we don't realize. You have one young lady who, because her mother is pretty much a drunk, her sister is on drugs, she takes care of her niece. She's 16 years old. And someone got on her for being late to the slam poetry practice. And she said, well, I'm sorry. My mom was drunk, so I had to help her get to bed. I had to fix dinner for my niece, and then had to get her straight with homework. And then I had to come here. And then like her peers are overcome with emotion. They feel bad. Her name was Freddie. But it's like, she had a lot to deal with. And it just shows me, from foster home to this one girl, she was just scared of life. She was scared of speaking in front of people. She was all afraid of what other people would think about her. And so it was a pretty good book. So I highly recommend that.